Hello and welcome to episode 42 of Bloggers Are Weird. I'm your host, DJ Paris, from the blog thoughtsfromparis.com. And we're going to get right to it today because I just finished up an hour-long conversation with one of my favorite writers out there, Aussa Lorens. Super talented, very funny, and very honest. Writes a lot about some of the, really raw and painful stuff in her life, and it always seems to make it extremely entertaining. She is just a true gem, and I had such a fun time. We talked about some failed relationships that she's had in the past in her family, and she also works at a psychiatric hospital, so she has a lot of great material from there. So without further ado, and by the way, if you haven't already started reading her, let's go visit her at Aussa, A-U-S-S-A, Lorens, Lorens.com, and start subscribing to all of her stuff because it is really all very, very good. So grab a hypodermic needle full of Thorazine or whatever your drug of choice is. I just started taking armodafinil, and if you should really check it out, and then you can thank me later. Go beg your doctor for a prescription of armodafinil. But in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Bloggers Are Weird is sponsored by moreblogreaders.com. Moreblogreaders.com is the home for the greatest teacher of how to build a business and get more readers for your blog, Darren Rouse. If you aren't familiar with Darren, you need to be, because over 320,000 bloggers get his newsletters. He has over 7,000 articles on his website, and he's written tons of books. In fact, when you go to moreblogreaders.com, you will see a list of Darren's books. I highly encourage you to start with 31 Days to a Better Blog. By going to moreblogreaders.com, you'll get special pricing for being a Bloggers Are Weird listener. So are you ready for more traffic and more success with your blog? Then go to moreblogreaders.com.
Okay, so this piece is called The Data Entry Fortress, and I wrote it about my workplace. It's no secret that if someone walks into my office building with a gun, I'll be the first to die. My hallway is a barren wasteland of inactivity, shared only by the executive director, the director of nursing, and our chief psychiatrist. There I sit, surrounded by the hospital's top 3 most likely to be killed by a disgruntled employee. We recently decided to implement FEMA's active shooter drills so our employees would know how to respond to a workplace shooting. It's fairly basic. If you can run, run. If you can't run, hide. If you absolutely can't hide, fight. To reduce anxiety, the active shooter is depicted by someone wearing a clown outfit, and the gun is a banana. If you get shot, a whistle is blown 3 times. It's fairly simple, and yet my coworkers had a hard time figuring it out. The 3 people least likely to get shot work on the 3rd floor in a tiny chain of offices that have access to 2 stairwells and a fire escape. You'd think the obvious choice would be to run, but when the overhead system announced the shooter drill was in effect, they had 3 very non-protocol responses. Coworker number 1. Instead of running out the fire escape, I will summon the elevator. Never mind that it takes 2 minutes to arrive and maybe carrying the shooter. The elevator seems like the best place to hide in any sort of a drill situation. Coworker number 2. Instead of running out the fire escape, I will climb to the very top of my craft closet and crouch in the empty space between my scrapbooks and sticker collection. Never mind that I'm out of shape and a 3rd grader probably couldn't fit up here. If I'm going to die, I want to be amongst my colored gel pens and paint stencils. Coworker number 3. Instead of running out the fire escape, I have decided to fight. Never mind that I am in my 60s and weigh 95 pounds, I will use this hand sanitizer as a weapon. Pretty much everyone died. Several days after the drill, I was about to head to a meeting when a timid-looking woman stepped into my doorway with her head down. I recognized her as a data entry clerk who works on the 2nd floor, right across from another fire escape. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure," I replied. She crossed the room and made herself comfortable on my couch. We had an active shooter drill on Monday, and I died." She looked into my eyes for dramatic effect. I was shot by a clown with a banana. He blew his whistle 3 times. She went on. I didn't like it. So I've decided that when the shooter comes, I'm going to be ready. I started to point out that it was only a drill and a shooting spree was not a scheduled event, but she was too busy asking if I had any black duct tape lying around. No, I said, I'm afraid not. She went on to explain how she tried to hide under her desk, but there was so much dust that she couldn't stop sneezing. She then thought it was a good idea to pop her head into the hallway to see what was going on. And there was the clown with his banana and 3 sharp whistles. I did not like dying, she said again. She'd spent the next few days staging a hideout by dragging a long row of filing cabinets away from the wall. There's enough space for 2 people to fit back there, she said proudly. The only thing was, now she needed black duct tape to cover the cracks between the filing cabinets. I'm afraid the shooter will see that the light is shining through and it's not consistent, and then he'll know there are people hiding because of all the shadows. After telling her several times that I didn't have any black duct tape, she asked about black cardboard. We want to put cardboard around the bottom for the same reason, because we don't want any light shining through. I tried to cover it with fabric, but I think the shooter will know that's not normal for an office, and he'll figure out that we're trying to trick him. I apologized for not having any black cardboard and picked up my keys, signaling my need to leave. I'm ready for it to turn into a hostage situation, she went on. I've got 2 upside-down trash cans back there with cushions so we have somewhere comfortable to sit. And then, if we're hiding for too long, we can also use them as toilets. I stared in horror, which she must have taken as amazement. Oh yeah, she said. But don't worry, I've got toilet paper back there too, along with water and food, because you never know how long a hostage situation might go on. I wondered if a roll of toilet paper might have helped me in this hostage situation. I've since reviewed the FEMA guidelines, and they make no mention of constructing a cardboard and duct tape fortress in the corner of your office. Then again, they also don't advocate for climbing to the top shelf of your closet, hiding in the elevator, or fighting back with office supplies. But what do they know, really? After all, we're mental health professionals. We know what we're talking about.
And you just got back from honeymoon, and that was really exciting.
Yes. We almost died, but it's fine.
What happened? I didn't read it. I didn't read the almost died thing.
Well, we thought that he wanted to go somewhere like safe, like exotic but safe, whereas I like to travel in like war-riddled countries. I went to Guatemala back when it was like the most dangerous country you could travel to. And so we went to Costa Rica and we thought, okay, let's be safe. Let's start our marriage out right. And we ended up swimming across a river. I don't even know how to swim. So kind of like wading/floating across a river. And then later found out that this river is famous for its crocodiles. They are like abundantly crocodiled and it's infested and people get killed by crocodiles and the crocodiles attack surfers and all this crazy stuff. And somehow we crossed that river twice and we didn't get eaten.
Don't most people just go to Costa Rica and zip line and sit at the beach?
Yeah. But I was like, oh, look at this muddy water. We should cross it,
Well, I and my girlfriend went to Nicaragua, which is just beneath Costa Rica. And it was awesome. And it was very safe, I felt.
Yeah.
But it did not have the zip lining as Costa Rica does. So
dang.
I've heard Costa Rica is great though. So
if you go to Guatemala, there are like no rules at all in that entire country. You can do anything. And so we were able to like climb an active volcano, and we took marshmallows and we roasted them in the lava, and we ended up getting lost. I got injured. I mean, it's glorious. You can do anything you want in Guatemala.
Wait, let's go back to Costa Rica. How Is this just how have you never learned to swim? What are you? You're 30, aren't you? You need.
I'm 29 years old. I'm
It's time to
scared.
learn.
I'm scared of water. I have,
This is
and
this is just hold on. Hold on. This is yet another in the T chart of what your parents did right and wrong. This is another glaring
Wrong.
entry in the bad column.
Yeah.
Never taught their daughter to swim.
I know it's a really long column, and Jenny Lawson, her question that she had posted for me to answer was like, what am I irrationally afraid of? And I'm afraid of water. I am absolutely afraid of water. Though I will say it's not really kept me from doing anything because I consistently do things that are like dangerous and don't make sense. And so I still I went snorkeling off the coast of Kenya. I've been in like really creepy boats in Vietnam and all kinds of things that I probably should have drowned, but I still all I can do is float and hope for the best.
You are the very definition of a survivor in the literal sense, and then also figuratively. You just kind of keep going, and let's talk about some of your crazy. And by the way, I haven't introduced yet.
Okay.
I am, which is another one of my amazing skills, is to talk for 20 minutes, and somebody might not know who you are. I am talking to Aussa Lorens, who is a blogger and award-winning blogger. Ooh. I saw just recently. How exciting.
Yeah.
And a name dropper. I heard Jenny Lawson a few minutes ago, so congratulations for slipping that in.
Oh, yeah, I've got all kinds of them. I have this little note here. I'll be like, Obama wanted me to mention. But we'll get to that.
He is going to be at Blog Her this year. So how excited. I think he is.
What?
Or maybe he was a couple years ago when I was in New York. He was there via video.
Interesting.
And he did a good, it was when he was campaigning, and he did a good solid minute of like, blogging is awesome. Oh, by the way, here's why you need to vote for me. Yeah.
I'll have to ask about that. I'll have to ask him about that later when we talk.
Well, I do know Gwyneth Paltrow will be there. So, well.
Yeah. Let's not even go there.
Wow. You're not, yeah. How come there's not one woman that likes her yet? She is, I don't know. Everyone hates her.
If she had stopped after Royal Tenenbaums, I'd have loved her forever.
Oh, it's her acting that you're not a fan of. It's none of the other stuff.
Well, the other stuff is pretty bad too. But I mean, we need people like that. If we don't have people like her to hate on, we'll start hating on each other. So I guess we need her.
I mean, it was so perfect when what did she call it when she was getting divorced? A conscious uncoupling.
Yeah.
That's so perfectly Gwyneth Paltrow.
It hurts me. It hurts me inside.
She's one of those women who there's not one guy out there who finds her attractive. But she's just like Cameron Diaz, but every woman thinks she's pretty, but no guy does.
Really? I think she's pretty.
No. Yeah, see? This is what I'm saying. Ask any man what they think of who's the other woman I just mentioned? The
Cameron Diaz.
Yes, you'll go 0 for 10 on attractiveness with it's weird, but women. Yeah, so I think it's funny though, but women hate Gwyneth Paltrow too. So it's an odd.
She's so pretentious.
Yeah.
Very pretentious.
So anyway, back to your horrible childhood. Let's talk about it.
Oh yes, my horrible childhood.
It is. Oh, I'm speaking of Aussa. Let's talk about where people can find you first.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get into the some of the real tragedy that is befallen you as up until recently. Now you have a lovely husband, and he seems so normal. You can find her at AussaLorens.com, which is AussaLorens.com. And then, she's on, obviously Facebook, although you have to find her via her tagline, which is hacker, ninja, hooker, spy. Mm-hmm. And that's the easiest way to find you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's so funny is I was trying to do a little research and kind of, just read various things. And so I went into Google just to type in your name, not to research you, but I was just pulling up your website. Uh-huh. And literally before we get into it, I'm not kidding. You might know this or you might not. And it's unfortunate because you type in Aussa and there's not too many people with that, with that name. Yeah. And then Lorens, and then literally Google wanted to autofill with father afterwards.
I know.
So,
a lot of people, yeah. I get search terms in my Google search terms, a shit ton of people Google trying to figure out who my dad is.
So do we want to talk about that, or
Well,
is that too painful?
no, not at all. It's not painful. I told you I'm super well adjusted. Well, I actually just pitched and sold a story today to a site called Narratively, and they emailed me, and it's about my dad. And they emailed me and they were like, "Now, are you going to use his real name?" And I was like, "No, I will not, because there are already enough people on the internet trying to find him."
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't. Yeah. So let's talk about. So as a child, you grew up. Your father. Where was mom? Was mom around or?
Yeah, so I have four older brothers, so there were five of us, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She was, yeah, very dedicated to that lifestyle. My kind of very upper middle class family. My dad was a businessman. He actually is an author, so you now everyone can Google him for that as well. But he's a published writer but also a businessman. So
If you're going to buy his book, click through my link so I can make
there you
35
go.
cents.
Yeah, we'll get some affiliate advertising.
That's right. So you grew up grew up somewhere in the United States. We don't want to say where, but you had pretty typical childhood, big family, and dad was a businessman, an author, and then things changed, I would say, right?
Yeah, so we were very much your like American dream family. Went to church every Sunday. My dad was actually an elder at our church, and the books he wrote were on Christian parenting. So we were definitely known as like a cool family, someone you wanted to be connected with, and yeah, like well admired. And then and then everything changed.
Turns out dad had some extracurricular
Yeah,
activities.
so well, this was back in like the early days of the internet. Well, as far as I know. So I was like 13 years old. This was I can't do math. It was sometime in the 90s. It was like right whenever AOL and chat had come out. And I started noticing my dad was always on the computer, and I wanted to know why he was stealing my time when I could have been chatting with, Nathan, the guy I had a crush on in my eighth grade math class. And so he would always click away and he would talk to me whenever I walked in the room. And I thought that was interesting because my dad didn't really talk to us. He was always very busy and important. And so I was like, okay, well, if he's talking to me, he must have something to hide. So again, the internet was really new and I was young and I did some searching and I found a hacker program that allowed me to basically copy down all the encrypted data on the computer. And using that, I was able to get his password and I hacked into his email account.
And we found what?
So found out that my super Bible thumping father, who also, lobbied against gay marriage at the Capitol, and he wrote, musicals about Jesus and stuff like that, that he was actually maintaining multiple alternate identities on the internet, hooking up with other men.
No, wait. A guy who writes musicals is a homosexual?
Well, they were for church, okay? They were for church.
It doesn't matter. Any man writing musicals is if I had to sort of
Should
like
tip them off right there.
If I had to like bet one way or the other,
Yeah.
I'm going with
He also had a really tight wardrobe. It was like the only thing he cared about was his clothing.
Did he have like the frosted tips in his hair
No,
and everything?
it wasn't that bad. He's
Okay.
definitely, very subtle about it, but he liked his clothing.
So dad was interested in other things, and then did you confront him? What happened?
I didn't. So I read all of it because that's totally me. I'm bad about that. If I get a little string, I will pull it until it's just exhausted. So I read everything. And again, I was 13. I was pretty sheltered. I'm not even sure I like understood what homosexuality was. I wasn't exposed to anything like that. And I was just so like confused and blown away by it that I just closed out of it and never brought it up again.
Well, there's no way at 13 to process that. I mean, it's probably so traumatic that the brain just has to shut down,
Yeah.
right? able to move forward with that information.
Yeah. And it's really weird because people are like, oh, repressed memories, that's not a real thing. But I think it is because going forward for the next 5 years, I started to hate my dad. I started to have, but that could have
Right.
been teenage angsty, whatever. But I really despised this man. But if you had asked me, I wouldn't have been like, oh, well, he's a hypocrite and he's gay and he, is cheating on my mom. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that. I really think I buried it for a while.
Of course.
So,
And then how did it all come to light?
oh my gosh. So when I was 18, all my brothers had moved out. I was living at home, and that was kind of the plan, was to live at home and go to college. We live in a university city. And it was like the Thursday before school started. And I actually had a dream. This sounds really weird, but I won't tell you the whole long story, but I had a dream. And in the dream, a lot of weird stuff was happening. And it ended with we were sitting at the dinner table, and that was very much my family. It's like, half my brothers were married, and it was this big Sunday lunch. And we were sitting there. And in this dream, I could see in the wall behind my dad, he's sitting at the head of the table, praying, that there was like a cockroach crawling up the wall. And then there was another cockroach. And all of a sudden the wall was just like festering. And the longer I sat there, I was like thinking like, oh my God, like, can you guys see this? And no one was noticing. And I was like, this is disgusting. And I kept getting more and more upset in this dream. And then I eventually, like in the dream, picked up my food and threw it at this wall. And I remember the side of my dad looking at me and kind of like smirking at me that no one else could see this disgusting thing going on. And when I woke up, it was like I remembered everything. And that night, I went to my mom and I said, I need to talk to you. And she was like, okay, well, I'm busy. We're watching TV. And I was like, no, I need to talk to you like right now. And she said, okay, well, you can wait till the show is over. And I'm like, Mom, I'm going to ruin your life. And she said,
right.
She said,
and his life.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
And she said, you can ruin my life when this TV show is over.
Right.
So I waited. I think it was like Survivor or something like that. It's another reason to hate that show. So anyways, after that, she came and she sat down. She said, okay, ruin my life. And I told her everything I remembered from when I was 13. And I was expecting it to be like this bombshell, like she wouldn't know what to do with it. And she was just like, I've known for years. And
yeah, she'd have to know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way not to know.
I think these women always know. I mean, I've been that woman in a different situation, and I knew. So,
well, but in order to preserve the normalcy of your life, and you have 5 kids, there's no way to sort of, again, it's maybe the best course of action is just to sort of see let's just pretend what's not there is not there, and then, or what's there is not there, and then let's just try to make it through.
Right.
And then, obviously that doesn't always end up so well. So,
yeah.
So then mom kind of said, okay, yeah, I know. And then what went on from there?
Oh man. So for a little while, she was very much like on my side, like whatever we need to do for you to deal with this, blah, blah,
Sure.
blah. So we set up this whole not like an intervention, but this whole like conversation with my dad. And he was just like, I'm so sorry. I cannot believe you knew about this. And he was like, but thankfully, I haven't struggled with this for like 5 years. It was just like a 2-month fascination. And I never actually had sex with a dude. I just like to Google it and talk about it online. And I remember being like, no, I have a really good memory. And I remember being like, no, I can remember like this dude's grammar when he was like telling you his address. And my dad's like, you're mistaken. And so basically he was really quick to apologize and beg for forgiveness until I kind of challenged him. And he majorly went on the offense and kind of started telling my family, well, hey, Aussa's depressed. Aussa's got all these issues. She's really unappreciative. We've given her everything. And she's, going off the deep end kind of thing.
Like you were exaggerating,
Mm-hmm.
You were making things up.
Yeah. And they didn't know because I didn't tell anyone even after that, I told my mom, and then I didn't tell even like my best friend or anyone else for another 1.5 years.
And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say mom did not come to your rescue.
No, and she seemed like she would. She really seemed like she would. She told me that she hated my dad. She wanted to divorce him. She stayed for us. And
Sure.
one of my brothers was getting married that summer, and she said, "Well, I'm going to wait till after the wedding, and then
Right.
I'm going to leave him." And then something happened, like major plot twist. I don't know what happened. And she flipped some switch, and it has never flipped back. And she is his biggest fan. She is a cheerleader. She believes in the gospel of this man. Like, she's like, he is a miracle. He is healed by Jesus. He is no longer struggles with that. You know, it's really weird. And what would happen would be like, they would say that, and I'd be like, really? And then I would hack into his computer and I would pull up his internet history and I'd show it to him and he would deny. And then he'd eventually admit it. And then he would say, okay, well, I'm healed from now on.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy.
So,
And that continues to this day, a sort of, it's just who knows what's going on kind of thing.
yeah. So this is like the one thing that I might like feel sad about in my life, actually, despite like every other like, you know, shitty thing that's happened. This is the one thing I kind of regret is I wasted years of my life trying to gather enough evidence to make my mom leave him. And it was about 4 years of my life that I spent stalking him, you know, tracking him online, hacking into his computer, sneaking into his office, stealing, I mean, crazy stuff that no other, you know, 19, 20-year-old girl should be doing. And eventually I just let it go and I stopped talking to them.
Yeah,
Not
it's just
healthy.
well, it's not even that it's not healthy. It's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you already have all the evidence.
Yeah.
And mom ain't buying it. You know, mom's in her own whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, at least they have each other.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
I mean, if you're going to be a closeted gay man who wants to maintain a air of heterosexuality, you better find a woman that's pretty cool
like
with it.
Die hard, sticking by her man. Yeah.
Well, I admire her tenacity. Well, we're just kind of making light of a very horrible situation, but and I don't mean to poke fun of it. It's it's just a crazy story.
It is. No, I find it funny. I mean, it was very sad when I was younger. I definitely.
Oh, it's the saddest thing ever. There's nothing more sad.
But now it's a little funny. And, you know, Alex, my husband, he'll, you know, when we go back and forth, I'll be like, well, you're this. And he'll be like, yeah, well, your dad is gay. You know, it's like, it's so inappropriate, but it's funny. So.
Yeah. And what are the brothers what? You're on your team or their team?
Oh, yeah, they're on my team. So.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely on my team. So.
Yeah. Well, when we were talking the other day, I thought you should have this trophy of, you know, sort of having just a real, I mean, it is that classic story of the preacher with the secret, you know.
I know. Every time I see one of those headlines, I'm like, everybody go away. I got to read this. This is my life.
Yeah. Well, you know. Anyway, so then the other thing I just want to bring up because it's so fascinating and unfortunate for you as well, but not as probably as damaging was and you have chronicled this and we don't need to go into it because it's I'm sure so well I know that it's so well written, so I don't want to spoil some of the greatness of it.
Yeah.
But if you're not familiar with Aussa's work, you go to her website and you'll get lost in the rabbit hole because she links around to everything. So if you like go, wow, where do I find that story? You'll just come across it because she's so great. You're masterful at linking back to other stuff, which I need to do a better job of that myself. But you have this amazing story, which really could be its own. I mean, it could be its own book, its own movie, which is the ex who you know took the naked photos and sent them to coworkers of yours, and you had to take them to court. It's a whole epic. It might be your magnum opus. It might be your. It might rival one of Dad's greatest musicals. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Creatively, what's a more what's more? But it is an amazing story. And then is this the same guy where you? Where you have a photo of him, but you told the judge I don't have one, so then you can't just put it out there, so you just recreated it by drawing. Is
Yeah,
that
I drew it on my dry erase board because it's like the worst. Like it's so bad. It should be a meme. It's got to be the least sexy naked photo that's ever been taken.
so? Just to make sure that this is clear to people listening, this is a guy who had a naked photo of you. He's a boyfriend, and he was an older guy too, which is even
Yeah.
weird. Like anyway, some scorned ex-boyfriend sends a naked photo of her to her coworkers as her.
Hmm.
So it comes across like she's sending photos of herself to her coworkers, right? Is
Right.
that, do I have that?
Yes.
Yeah,
It was
which
pretending
is
to be me.
which is so diabolical, really. I mean, it's not just like a hey, look at what Aussa. It's like, hi, I'm Aussa. Check me out. I'm the girl two cubes over.
Exactly.
And then then you have to like take legal action, which is a horrific thing.
Hmm.
And then at the end, the judge goes, well, you have and then you said, well, I have the photo, and the judge says you have to destroy it. You can't. And you said, okay, I promise. And then you you said, well, of course you do have it, but basically drew it from, and which is so brilliant. That is so brilliant. And you put it on your blog so you can really get a sense of this man.
Yep. It's so bad.
Oh, I love that story.
So
I mean,
bad.
it's such a horrific story, but it sounds like you really didn't have any. I mean, and I know, look, and again, this was a crime. I mean, and a pretty serious crime.
Yeah.
And I mean, is it a sex crime to do that?
It really isn't, sadly, but I mean, I would consider it sexual violence because it's completely degrading a woman based on her sexuality.
Well, it's an incredibly violent act,
Yeah.
really, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just violent. It's like anyway, and so but thankfully you got your justice, which was good.
Always
And
get
that
my
was really
justice.
that was only what? That wasn't too long ago, right? A few years.
No, yeah, it was 2000. Well, the photos and everything happened in 2012, and then the court case that I wrote about was 2013. So it was like a year and a half ago. It was August
This
2013.
is like a 6 or 7 part blog epic
Yeah.
story that you have to turn that into a novel or a book.
I
or
want
at least-
to. I want to
It's
write it. I want
so
to write a
good.
book about my whole workplace, which is totally screwed up in a different way. But I met him at work, and that makes it all the more ironic because I work at a psychiatric hospital. So it's like, really, Asa, you thought it was a good idea to date a guy who also works at the psychiatric hospital, and so it all works in from there.
Yeah, yeah, and he wasn't a resident, right? He was
No,
one of
but
the
he should have been.
yeah, yeah. So I want to go to your fan questions because aside from the Jenny Lawson one, let's talk about some of the other. By the way, Jenny Lawson said I was very handsome one time.
Oh, did
so.
she?
See, I can name drop too.
I suddenly, yes, find you more handsome because you did.
She I know it's yeah, she did actually. She's very nice. I've never met her in person, but I used to advertise on her site years ago, and then I was probably the only guy who advertised on her site, and then so she would I'd have to send her money every month, and then we sort of chat back and forth. And she was great because she gave me a lot of really good advice about how to actually make a blog into a business. And you are, well on your way. I mean, you get more comments. It's unbelievable how engaged your readers are because you are a really amazingly competent and funny writer. And I don't. And I was thinking about this on the earlier today. You might be the only non-mother blogger that I've ever had on the show. I don't think I've out of like 40 people.
Really?
So I love that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love that. So
I'm like a pioneer. I'm a pioneer.
Yes. And you shouldn't have children. Let's be honest. So anyway, so you went to your fans and asked the question. So let's talk about that. How do your coworkers not know about what you write about, or do they?
A few of them know about it. So there are a couple people that I work with that are like in the circle of trust, and I don't consider them to be absolutely batshit crazy like the rest of the people that I work with. And so they know about the blog, and they actually help me with stories. They will text me whenever something ridiculous happens, and they're like, "Oh my God, you have to get over here. I have a blog post for you," But the rest of the people, I don't know. I think I think maybe it's because they're too stupid and they actually don't even know how to use the internet. Like I'm just taking chances, honestly. That's the real answer. I'm just running the risk of being discovered, but I mean, these people are like incapable of writing an email based on the things that they will come into my office and ask me about. I don't think they've ever heard of Google. So they just haven't come across me yet.
Well, and I do know that this is bad. I was at a red light and I was reading some of your stuff because I'm not above that. Let's be honest.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I know it's terrible, but and every once Mark Maron, the comedian, has this is so awful, but he has a great bit about texting while driving. he said it's the most exhilarating thing you could ever do.
So
he said
bad.
because whenever you have a near miss, like all of a sudden you're engaged and you almost hit somebody and then you don't, you're like it is the most exciting moment of relieving moment of your life.
Well,
it is.
I was like I like an old school violator because I actually bought a book during lunch day about Brittany Gibbons' new book, and I kept trying to read the jacket cover while driving and like at red lights, and then the light turned green and I started to go even though I was still reading the book, and some high school kid went running across the crosswalk and I almost hit him, and yeah, it was very exhilarating. I concur.
And so, but I really was at a red light, and I came across, and it's so funny that I know what this is because somebody sent it to me because I have a horrific phobia. I don't know if phobia is the right word, but menstruation is like, it is my kryptonite. It is my kryptonite. It puts me in the fetal position. I'm a 38-year-old man, and I literally have talked about this in therapy like 4 years ago. This wasn't the reason I went to therapy, but I said, hey, while I'm in here, we got to fix this whole issue I have. And I was like born with it. I swear to God, this isn't like it's just, anyway, it's not.
Menstruation
that big a deal.
Is great. That's how we all exist, just because women bleed. I mean, we're like,
well,
come on.
Yeah. I mean, if we could just send you to the edge of the village for those 3 days like they used to.
No.
But so you wrote a story about something I happen to know about, which no guy would know about, which is the Diva Cup, which is basically a menstrual cup, which was used 1 million years ago. And some jokester thought it would be funny to bring it back into the marketplace and call it a Diva Cup. And it's to collect menstrual blood and in a cup, basically, and you wear this device. And or I don't know if it goes inside or outside.
No, it goes all the way up in there.
Oh,
yeah, like it goes so far up in there that you forget it exists. Like you completely absorb it. It's crazy. Yeah. Okay. It becomes one with the woman.
Yes. And so anyway, I was looking at that and I was like, God, this is so funny because this is the one topic that I can't handle. And I was, and then I got really ghost white, and then I had to put it down. And I'll read it.
So you don't even know how it ends?
The red light was only 45 seconds. I
don't want to spoil it for you, but it's still stuck up in there.
Oh. Good luck with that pregnancy thing going forward. We'll see how that interferes. Okay, so since you are so incredibly boundaryless in your blog, what are things that you have set boundaries around, and what won't you write about?
I would say the only thing I won't write about would be like actual struggles of my family members. So I have talked about my family a little bit, and then they found the blog, and there were a little bit of issues, and those were just jokes. So, but whether or not they knew about it or not, probably wouldn't talk about like actual drama or like hardships that they've gone through. That's just, and even with Alex, my husband, like I share way too much personal information, and like every little like conversation we have, I like pull my phone out and take notes and stuff. But if there's ever anything like actually serious, kind of like the life altering junk that everyone goes through, that stuff's never going to make it on there.
Yeah, I think, the way I've thought about that, because a lot of times family is a great source of material. And then a lot of times I sort of end up going, well, number one, this isn't really my story to tell.
Exactly.
And then number two, it's kind of a cop-out. It's kind of easy. Like it's easy for me to tell someone else's story but it's way harder for me to sit in front of a blank screen and go, I've got nothing and I have to find something to write about.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you feel that way too. Like, and at the same time, like it sometimes just causes problems when you
Yeah.
write about. So yeah, I totally am on board with that. I have that same philosophy or that same practice because I've made those mistakes too. And most of the time, when I've written about other people, they're totally fine with it. And then there's a few times where I knew I should have asked permission, I didn't,
Yeah.
and I've had to pull stories down, out of respect for other people and things like that. But so somebody had written in, what's the one? Do you have a personal blogging rule that you will not break?
Um, yeah, I looked at that one. I think the only rule other than the, not betraying kind of like the personal confidence. Well, not betraying anyone's personal confidence. A lot of people say to me, hey, I got to tell you about this, but you're not allowed to blog about it. Like I will never do that. I'll never do that. But also I will not say where I live on the blog. I've told people in private conversations and there are ways to find out, but I will never come right out and say where I live because I feel like legally it protects me in the future.
Yeah, and it also
Keeps,
there's some physical. Yeah, it
yeah,
keeps people away, and I think it's irrelevant where you live, really. I
yeah.
mean, who care? Who cares?
Hmm.
And especially being a woman, now that you're married, maybe that makes it a little bit less appealing for a guy who says like, oh, I want to get to know this person. Maybe maybe that will sort of keep some men away, but as a guy, this never has happened to me where I've never had to worry about somebody coming to find me. And
Hmm.
I just, women just really aren't kind of built that way, most of them. Or at least nobody that seems to be into me is sort of got that crazy eye thing.
Yeah.
Although I did meet a reader out for drinks. This is years ago at a bar right around the corner from where I live.
Uh-oh.
And I didn't know her, and I just thought, oh, this would be kind of fun. And then she ended up being totally normal and whatever. And then I thought I can never do this again. This is really stupid because I don't, she doesn't, I mean, it's just dangerous and whatever.
Yeah.
But, so, and it's, so why, do you get a lot of that? Do you get a lot of, crazy guys or, do you get hit on a lot online? Does that happen a lot to you?
I mean, maybe a fair amount. Okay, see, this is my problem. This is maybe why I attract weird people, is because now I feel like afraid to talk about it because I'm like, what if they listen to this podcast and then they'll know I was talking about them? But yeah, there's some strange things. People have made artwork of,
Really?
yeah,
Oh, I love
and
that.
then sent it to me.
Oh, I would be so honored if somebody drew artwork of
I
me.
know, like part of me is like, oh, that's creepy. Like that's my vagina, but
Oh, they've decided on to
yeah,
draw
yeah,
that.
they apparently know all the details. And so part of me is like, huh. But then another part of me is like, I don't know, whatever.
Did they at least make it so that the stuff on the inside wasn't showing through to the outside? Because I, some women too are not blessed with that whole thing.
I mean, no, it was pretty much all there. It was all there
It
for
was all
show.
there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
There have been a
men.
few things like that, but I don't know. I feel like every time I'm asked this question or I'm asked about like trolls, I can never think of anything because I think I just file it away immediately.
But wait, let's go back to the guy drawing the vagina. I just was thinking about it. Like if I'm obsessed with somebody
Uh-huh.
and I've never been so motivated to meet somebody or impress them by doing anything creative like that
Uh-huh.
for them, because it really is a tremendous amount of work. It's burning a lot of calories.
Right?
And then the guy's got to go like, okay, I really want to impress her or whatever. And so he's got to do the like, all right, what should I'm pretty good at drawing. So, okay, so we're going to draw. Now okay, well, okay, maybe I could draw her. And then he's got to scan your body and his mind and sort of go like, well, I'm pretty good at, no, I'm not really good at faces. There's too many features. I can't really get the noses right. And then he eventually settles on, I'm pretty good at vaginas. And he just,
Right.
I mean, isn't that like just the thought
I mean,
process of like,
how am I to
it's
deny
amazing.
someone their art,
Well, I just love that's what he's best at. That is
Right?
his, his bowl of fruit that that he's like, I'm a vagina. That's what I draw.
And then
And
decided to share it with me. I'm like, I mean, for all I know, there's lots of art like this out there, but I'm glad you chose to share it with me.
And then when like, I'm assuming you don't reply.
No, not to that. No.
No. And then like what happens is he just like is there another message he sends a week later?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
hey,
No, I continue. I continue to receive messages.
from the same person.
Yeah, this has been like for
Oh,
for like over a year. But
yeah.
it's not threatening. It's not anything terrible. I just kind of read them and chuckle and go on. But I think to myself, well, it's good that he doesn't, because this person actually lives within like 60 miles of me, doesn't know it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Does he send, oh, because you could just find him online. He doesn't like, does he put it in he doesn't know where you live, so he doesn't mail it to
I
you.
just traced the IP address and I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
Right. What's the, so here, let's see. What is the one thing you do that creeps you out?
Oh, that's the one thing I do that creeps me out. I feel like I thought about this. Um, Actually, I asked Alex to help me with this, but I can't remember our answer. I think it's that I memorize everything in every room and every position that it's in. Like, so if you come into my house and you touch something, like I will know you were there. And so if I come home and like a book is moved or anything is shifted, I immediately freak out and I start like asking, "Hey, did you come home? Did you do this? Did you touch this? Did you da 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 da?" And there's always an answer. Almost always there's an answer. But I do the same thing in my office. So if I walk into my office at work, which is, theoretically like a secure room, only like two other people have a key to it. If there's something moved, I immediately think like there's a ghost or something.
So you have control issues, it sounds like.
Well, I worry about I don't know if you got to that post, but someone coming into my home when I'm not there. And so
Yeah.
so I creep
No,
myself out with that.
but that's a reasonable fear because of, some of the things you've received, communication, et cetera.
Yeah.
And just some bad ex-boyfriends and
Yeah.
people who, that's
A little
that's
hyper
reasonable.
vigilant maybe.
Yeah, I have a tinge of that too. Not in this, like I don't notice anything physically, like in my physical environment, I'm way inside my own head. But so I have the opposite where I'm so like present internally that I can play. I have a litany of music that it's just like my own internal sort of music playlist, and I'm able to hear every instrument of every, and like play songs from start to finish from, no matter how long they are. And so I have a little bit of like, it's a little autistic thing on the inside. So I can I have that level of detail internally outside. Yeah. I would never know if somebody was in my house, but because it is funny because I do have a cleaning lady who comes in once every 3 weeks and does clean, and she moves things, and then I never see them again.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, well, anyway, so let's see what else. Family read your blog. Now we know they don't. What else? Let's see. Well, yeah, why did you start to write?
Oh, okay. I actually started I think my first post was in October, but I got the idea to blog in September of 2013, and it was because of the court case. My ex-boyfriend, the one that sent the naked photos, I had to testify against him, and I had to be cross-examined, and which basically means that they just like, tear you to pieces and slander you and shame you and all of that stuff. So it was after going through all of that, and that story and that experience was like so absurd, and I took so many notes, and then I requested a transcript, and I was just like, this is the most ridiculous story. And I'm pretty private, like actually with the people in my life. Like I have a small group of friends, small people that I like open up to. And I just thought like, my God, this story, I have to tell it, like people need to hear it. And that was the reasoning behind like, I'm going to start a blog to tell this story. And then it was my attorney who actually called me a hacker, ninja, hooker, spy, because that was what she said, that the other attorney who was cross-examining me, like, oh, she made you out to be a hacker, ninja, hooker, spy. And I thought, that sounds like a good name for a blog. So that was really it.
And it is interesting because I think people would go to your site and instantly go like, wow, look at how, many readers she has and how engaged they are. But you put a tremendous amount of time into your blog, into
Mm-hmm.
your social media. I mean, you are constantly, really building your brand, and it's so exciting to watch it because it is truly taking off. And I are you starting to notice that? Are you feeling like you're starting to get a pretty strong foothold in, your readers and
I guess so, yeah. I mean, it seemed to grow like way out of hand right when I first started. It sort of exploded, and I kind of had this timeline in my mind about like how things were going to go, and it was like within the first month, I was kind of on like the 9 month portion, and then I sort of exceeded where I knew to expect, and kind of just fumbled my way through it. But even though it's gotten bigger than I had planned, I still feel like I know everybody because a lot of the people that, like when you go on there and you see the comments and everything, like a lot of those people have been commenting from the very beginning, and I'm friends with them on Facebook, and I'm just like, I feel like I have inside jokes with them. And so even though it feels like, oh, this is really great and it's really spreading, I still feel like it's like hanging out with all my friends on the internet.
well, let me tell you how I knew when I felt secretly very, very powerful, which this is years ago, and I've really taken like the last year off, so I've really fallen off a bit. But I had a couple years ago, I had one of, like you were saying, like somebody who comments a lot that I
Uh-huh.
don't know them, but I know see their name,
Yeah.
and I recognize them, and I have some sort of understanding of, kind of who they are, but I couldn't tell you their actual name or anything, or,
Right.
if they're. And so one of these readers, a woman, had messaged me privately. I was actually on an airplane or just getting on an airplane, and like on Twitter, I think, or somehow it's something. Yeah, I think it was Twitter, like a direct message. And I didn't recognize her. She said, "Hey, I've got a secret to share with you." And I was like, "Oh, I love secrets. I don't know who you are." I didn't even know she was. And then she said, "I'm so and so." Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, you're always writing on my blog. Thank you. And then I said, "What's your secret?" And she said, "I'm having an affair with another one of your readers." And I was like, "Oh, that's so exciting," And then I thought, oh, and then I went, oh wait, are you guys aren't married, are you? And then she goes, yes, we're both
Oh
married.
my goodness.
No, 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 it gets better. They're both married to men, and they're having a relationship, and they're both female, and they're having a relationship. Now, this is again, I don't know if it really
Did
happened.
they
This is
meet on
just
your
what
blog?
I didn't. I At that point, once, because she mentioned the other person who also I didn't know, but I recognized the name,
Uh-huh.
and at that point, it became a little too real, and I had to immediately bow out. I had to sort of say, "Oh, hey, yeah, yeah, good for you
Ah.
guys, whatever," and then it was not, then all of a sudden this is a real thing, and people's families are involved, and
Yeah.
they both have kids, and I mean it's a whole thing, and so I don't know whatever happened, and that was the last I ever heard of it, but. I don't know, I don't suspect they met because of my blog, but maybe maybe they had passed the link to each other, who knows? But it was, that was a pretty strange
Wow.
moment.
I've had two girls who met in the comments of my blogs in my blog and realized they lived like within, I don't, it was like half an hour of each other, and they became friends and like hang out. And so I see them hanging out on Facebook, and they're like, "We met because of you."
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And, and I also want to mention that you do, what, maybe I shouldn't mention. I was going to say, I have I know where you're going to be, at least at a few things this
Oh,
year, and
that's
maybe I
fine.
shouldn't
No, no,
mention.
it's
Okay.
fine.
So one of the things that you're a big believer in, and I didn't get to go to Blog Her last year,
Mhm.
except I gave away a free ticket to somebody because I'm such a nice person,
Yeah.
and they never thanked me, but that's okay.
Oh my goodness.
Um, I
I'm
did a
gonna
con.
stalk back through all your history and find out who it was. So I'm gonna do instead
Um,
of sleep tonight.
well, that's a good use of your time. So, um, and no, anyway, I couldn't go to Blog Her. I think you were at Blog Her last year, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll be there again this year. And then I will see you and I'll be there as well. And my girlfriend will be there. She's really fun. And then I will see you very shortly here in a couple weeks in Baltimore for Blog U.
Heck yeah. Excited.
And yeah, it's going to be fun. I didn't. Did you go last year?
No, I didn't.
I didn't
I
either.
hadn't even heard
So
of it. And then I started seeing everything on like Instagram and Facebook, and I felt very jealous. And I was like, I'm going next year.
well, it's really funny because I thought Jen Man, people I want to punch in the throat,
Yeah.
Jen Man. I thought she was like in charge of it, and she really has nothing to do with it at all. And so for like last year when I I found out about it last minute, and I was like, I'm going to a few other things, but I said, hey, I want to talk at the next one, and she, yeah, okay, fine, then I was like, and I mean, I know her, we're friendly, and so I've hung out with her and stuff, and I saw like a couple weeks later, I'm like, no, seriously, I really want to talk at the next one. What do I need to do? And she's like, finally, she goes, I don't know. I have nothing to do with this blog conference. And I felt like such an idiot. I said, okay. And then it turns out a couple of the people who are in charge of it, I did know. And then I reached out. So I'm going to do a thing on podcasting with a couple of, very, very fun women too. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So talk about that. Have you really enjoyed the conferences that you've been to? And if for people that are bloggers, do you recommend that they go?
Oh yeah, definitely. So the only conference I've been to was Blog Her last year, and to be perfectly honest, I went in like very eager, like a little student, and that is just who I am. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go learn. I'm gonna take all these notes. I'm gonna like get a master plan and a strategy, and I will do all this stuff. And that isn't really what happened. That's not really what happened. And I can't say that I necessarily learned a ton, but I had so much fun and getting to meet people. And there's actually a video on YouTube with me and another blogger, Gunmetal Geisha. And we basically just like ran around San Jose and like talked to homeless people and like street magicians and like crashed other people's parties at hotels. Like we went to a hotel and there was I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like a wedding reception or something. But this has nothing to do with blogging conferences. See, this is what happens.
No, it does. And I will tell you, so I'm a man and I have a very specific view of this thing. And this is maybe predates you by a year or so, but there was a couple years ago, there was I think it was Huffington Post or something, they did somebody did a story about women going to Blog Her in particular and saying how it's this great fun party and all these women who are housewives who have to stay at home and, raise their stupid kids and, they never get out of the house and their husbands are, probably ignoring them and stuff. They get to like go and have this really super fun, awesome weekend where they're partying and then they're going to, and they're going to the sessions and I thought that's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
And I went, and I didn't see that as a negative at all. And it wasn't like people just go there to get drunk.
No, not
and
at all.
Women, I don't know. Did you ever see this article? Because people went crazy about it.
Like crazy.
Oh my
angry?
God. Oh, so angry because it was like, hey, we're not just going there to get drunk and have, and I went, yeah. But it is a party at night at least. And the sessions, they're fine, whatever. I have the same feeling you do about them, but it's really fun and you get to go to these parties. And anyway, this was the biggest scandal. And I just go, why can't it be a party? Right. Like, why is that a bad thing where women who are I think probably most of the women at Blog Her are mothers. So it's not like they are able to probably just get out of the house every so often. So I thought like, what a cool way for them to get together and hang out and party and have fun and, dance. And I just didn't see that as a negative. And then, it was this big deal, but it is really fun, at least for people that like to socialize and have a good time. And even if I always tell people, even if you're not, because there's a lot of bloggers that are very introverted. I said, even if you're introverted, you will find other introverted people there and you guys will have a great time.
No, I'm like queen of the introverts. I'm like the worst. So like when I book to go to Blog Her and same thing with Blog You, I get there a day early. And I spend that day by myself. And then I leave a day late so I can spend a day by myself. So it's like I concentrate like all my extroverted capacity into those 2 days. And then I just have to hide away.
I think that's a very common blogger trait.
Yeah.
And, I think that's what's so cool is at these conferences I think introverted is probably even more common than extroverted in blogging, the blogging circles, or at least, but everyone's we're all in the same kind of boat. We're all writing stupid things. We're all, it's so cool to, I just have never found that there's a lot of, I'm sure there are egos, but I don't attract those people. So it's just really a lot of fun. Yeah. And then I think at the smaller conferences like the Blog you really do get a chance to learn some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Like I not to diss blog her, but my expectations are different. But blog you, I'm actually planning on learning things, so I'm excited. I look at the sessions and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna own the world when I'm done.
So, well, let's just end with this because you have had a lot of, we sort of poked fun at it, but you've had some really, traumatic things happen. Why do you think you are able to joke about it and seemingly in a very healthy way? What has been the way, how have you learned to cope with all of that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like people are always like, oh, you're so well adjusted, you're so whatever. But it's like, there were, for every one of the events or something that I will blog about, there were like extended amounts of time, if not years, of sadness, depression, kind of like a level of despair, not accomplishing anything. So it's like I don't just bounce back immediately, but for the most part, I feel like almost everything can eventually be laughed at. And if you can learn to laugh at something, you really take the power away from it. So something that, makes you feel ashamed, something you're so ashamed of, it's so dark, you never want anyone to know about it. If you can find a way to laugh at it, you take that power away from it. If there's something you're so afraid of, same sort of thing. If you can laugh at it, you kind of turn the tables. And so I don't know, I guess that's kind of it. And then it's more of like a perspective, because even now, my problems aren't the problems that typically come up in my life aren't as bad as some of the ones maybe in the past, but I still melt down and, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But there always comes this kind of moment. And I think we can train our brains to kind of have this perspective to kind of say, stop, and something sort of clicks, and it's like your perspective shifts and you can seek out the humor in it. And it's almost always at least a little bit funny.
Yeah, I think you're right. And in fact, I know you're right because I do the same. And I think there's the ability also when you learn to look for the humor
Mm-hmm.
and it enables you to be able to shift, like you were saying, shift perspective.
Yeah.
But also, I always tell people you can pivot back. If you want to pivot back into shame, like by all means do that. And I don't even mean that as like necessarily a bad thing, but if you want to pivot back, you can do that, but at least give yourself something to pivot towards
Uh-huh.
in the event that you don't want to live in the shame.
Yeah.
You can live in the shame, but also have like this other way to go, well, what's funny about it?
Mm-hmm.
And then, if I want to go back to I just think, having more options around,
Yeah.
something that's really horrible, it enables you to be able to also survive the shame part or the sadness or the anger because, like, number one, it's not probably always going to feel that way, but
Yes.
also you can pivot out of it. And so, I was having that thought the other day. I was in a extremely sad place and I didn't even necessarily know why. And it was almost to the point where I was like, I almost got to this. And I've never had any sort of suicidal tendency. And never. I did have this like, I could see maybe if I wasn't around, that wouldn't be so horrible.
Right.
And I actually had that thought and it's really scared me for a second. And then I went, but I'm not suing. Like it's a funny for me to even have that thought. Like there's humor in even having that thought because
Mm-hmm.
it's such an absurd thought for me. But it was a very real thought. And then I was able to pivot and go, it's kind of funny in a way because number one, I'm way too cowardly to do it. And I always think it's not cowardly when people go, I go, no, that's like the most courageous thing. I don't think you should do it, but it is incredibly difficult to pull that off.
Yeah.
But please don't anyone do it. But the idea is I was able to feel horrible about it and then also kind of laugh and go, that's kind of funny because I know this is just my own craziness.
Right.
Like it's not, and by able to sort of laugh at it, which is what I was just saying this to, I was at a party over the weekend and I ran into this woman who's a therapist and we're not friends, but I know her through someone else. And I said, I go, it is amazing that we really take our own self-judgment with way more credence than the closest people who love us dearly and know everything anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And like people who don't think we're a piece of shit,
Right.
those who know us. I mean, not just people who they don't really know everything, people that know everything and still love us.
Mm-hmm.
We still inside go, they don't really know me, like, no, and then it's so silly and I've realized like, maybe my own internal thoughts or judgments of myself aren't that accurate because if everyone else
Yeah.
around me doesn't think I'm so awful, maybe I'm not so awful.
No, it's very true. It's very true. And I think if you can reach that point where you can, like, you aren't the same thing as your thoughts, like your thoughts are separate from your identity, and you can kind of step back and you can look at your thoughts and realize that they don't necessarily have a truth value, that like opens up a whole new world of being able to move past things.
It's just ebbs and flows. And, you know, I've always thought that I was supposed to fix all this stuff. And now I've learned, I just have to learn to cope with it. And then at the same time, what I told this therapist is, I have a counsel. I have people who, if I'm really running into some bad areas, they're gonna make sure that I, you know, that whatever, that they tell me, you know, hey, you don't leave the house with that cowboy hat. You look like an asshole. You know, like they're not going to let me do that. But at the same time, you know, if I always just think, like, you need a counsel, you need people that will tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And oftentimes their truth is way more accurate than yours about you.
Yeah.
You know, so I've learned to sort of not, like you were saying, not take total ownership, which I think is so smart that you said that. Not own necessarily all your thoughts. Just they come and go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because I have lots of crazy thoughts.
I know you write about them. All right. Well, we have spent enough time. Yeah. And so here's what I want everyone to do. If you haven't already, go to AussaLorens.com, AussaLorens.com. Read. She's got her best stuff in various categories, and just subscribe to her newsletter and go visit her on Facebook and Twitter. What else should we tell people about you? Anything?
I think that's it. You've covered all my dark and dirty secrets.
Well,
not really. There's some others, but they'll have to go digging for them.
Oh, how exciting.
It's like a treasure hunt.
And I wish I could have got a hold of you in 2012 and signed you to an exclusive management deal. I've never managed anyone and I have no connections, but I would so love to take a piece of your future earnings, because I know that you've got big things coming. So congrats in advance for the book deal that's inevitably coming. I mean, so many bozos have books now, and the fact is that you've got one very, very shortly, I'm sure, coming. So that'll be really exciting to watch your trajectory. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate your time. I know we've gone way over. So anyway, go visit AussaLorens.com. And anyway, thank you again, and go enjoy your newly married life.
Oh, I will.
So Thank you so much for being on the show. Say goodbye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.